right, IM2 classes. Today we're continuing on with our complex numbers, our imaginary numbers. We are going to multiply complex numbers today. We will be multiplying. Let's just get right into it. Reminder of what the imaginary number is. What makes an imaginary number is this imaginary unit. So that's the square root of -1 is I. Again, the imaginary unit solves the problem of taking the square root of a negative. If you take a square root of a negative, reminder from the last lesson. So if we have like the square root of -16, we know the square root of 16 is 4. But since it's negative, we slap an I on it, make an imaginary solve. We can now take the square root of a negative number. When we're multiplying name numbers, we need to remember the fact that I squared then, well, since I is the square root of -1, that means I squared is equal to -1. Or so rather, if we were to multiply it out like this, I times I, who will be seeing this a lot, is -1. All right. So just remember that fact. I squared is -1. So here we're going to multiply out. So it's just like multiplying anything else. We're going to multiply by distributing. So 4i times -6. 4 times -6 is -24. Don't forget the I. And then 4i times I. So that's going to be plus 4i times I is I squared, right? So you might be able to do this next part in your head and skip right to it, and that's fine. But as I work through it, so -24i doesn't change. I squared, remember that is -1. So I'm going to change that I squared to -1. So -24i plus 4 times -1 is -4. So it's -24i plus -4. And I'm going to take one more step and to write this in the standard form where the real number comes first, the real part, and then it's negative. So I can just write as -24i. That's it. All right. So just remember the I squared is equal to -1. Let's do another example. Oh, here. I'm going to FOIL some stuff or just multiply it out. You can use the box, whatever you want. Here, I'm just going to distribute the 9. 9 times -4 is -36. And then 9 times 7i is 63. Thank you. Plus 63i. This is a -2i. So -2i times -4 is a positive 8i. And then -2i times -7i, or positive 7i. -2 times -7 is -14. I times I is I squared. All right, so let's clean this up a bit. So I have a -36. 63i plus 8i is a positive 71i. Then minus 14. Oh, this was I squared. I squared is -1. So from here, you could probably do the rest of this in your head. I'm going to show all the work. -14 times -1, that's going to become a positive 14. And then I have the like terms on the outside. -36 plus 14, that's going to be a -22, like plus 71i. There we go on that one. All right, so just keep track of that, squaring that I. Multiply stuff together. Here, don't forget, you don't just square both of these. So 3 minus 6i is going to be 3 minus 6i times 3 minus 6i. It's not just 3 squared minus 6i squared. You got to multiply times itself and now distribute the 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times -6i is -18i. -6i times 3 is -18i again. And then -6i times -6i, that's negative. Nope, negative times negative is a positive 36i squared. Clean this up. So 9, -18i minus 18i, that's -36i. plus, this is 36, I squared is negative 1. So 36 times A1 is negative 36. So I have 9 minus 36I plus negative 36 or just minus 36. I have these like terms on the outside. So I'm going to combine them. 9 minus 36, that's negative 27. You combine those, minus 36I. Done with that. All right. So practice some multiplication. Next, we're going to multiply by the conjugate. So the conjugate here, so I'm going to start with my 5 plus 2I. The conjugate, all that is taking, if it's plus, the conjugate becomes a minus. If it's minus, it becomes plus. But everything is the same. That is all the only difference there. Just change the plus from minus to plus, multiply it together. So distribute the 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times negative 2I is negative 10I. Positive 10I times 5 is positive 10I. 2I times negative 2I, that's going to be negative 4I squared. So if we're looking here, the like terms in the middle, so negative 10I plus 10I, those are going to cancel out. Is it that helpful? So then I have 25 minus 4I squared is negative 1. Negative 1, that's going to make this a positive 4. So I get 25 plus 4 becomes 9. So when you multiply by the conjugate, what's nice is the imaginary part cancels out. And since you have the I squared, you just end up with a real number at the bottom. So let's do one more example. Multiply by the conjugate here. Put parentheses here. The conjugate is going to be 4 plus 7I. Distribute the 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 7I is 28I. I'm going to distribute the negative 7I. So negative 7I times 4 is negative 28I. Negative 7I times 7I, that's going to be negative 49I squared. Now the complex part, the imaginary part, positive 28 minus 28 cancels out. So I have 16 plus the negative 49 I squared is negative 1. So negative 49 times negative 1 is positive 49. So I get 16 plus 49 comes out to 65. Yeah, 65. And then we're done. That'll do it for us. We'll see you guys on the next lesson. Can't remember what it is.